Wow.
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 Uh, you know, I
Wow.
lot of things. What one thing for sure is I'd seen, trying to avoid
Spoilers?
spoilers. I had the spoiler alert that I felt that I've been exposed to had more to do with like, I don't know, I thought somebody showed up. I thought something like, I don't know what people were alluding to, but like when that long, like, it reminded me, there's this very famous scene in Miami Vice
Hmm?
that was just this like long song that played
Right?
with no words, which was like new TV at the time,
Right.
right? Like people were like,
Why isn't there things happening? Why isn't
or
there talking?
yeah, and just in that long, like that long part of, the basically whatever it was, the last 5 minutes, whatever,
Of the
of
episode,
the
yeah.
episode, uh I was like, oh, it feels like there's, like they're just looking at each character, the
Yeah.
profound moment of it all, and I'm like, but surely they're gonna take us
To the next
like
thing.
to the next place or
Right.
something. Like, I definitely feel like we're missing a season. I
Which
guess
is
the seasons have been written
yeah,
already, you
the
know.
the fates haven't written, the music's been playing. You've got your dance. This
Yeah.
is yeah, okay, let's just talk about those few moments. Okay.
Right.
Dedra. She's she was at the top of her game. And then she messed up. She made one mistake, one huge mistake. And she's where Cassian was in season 1. She's building pieces for the eye of the Death Star. That's where she was.
Okay, so I was unclear.
Me
I see.
too. I kind of thought
She
she got her brain zapped or something, but like
she was in that prison farm or whatever kind of thing.
yeah,
Okay, that's interesting.
where they were building like the pieces for the
Right. So okay, so there's maybe three parts to the episode. Uh they did the escape, the combat, the droid fight,
yeah,
like that, right? Like the rush of, like
all of it.
the the escape, the battle, the
Hmm.
kind of like rescue, everything,
Yeah,
um, which is great, right? And the
awesome,
and
really
the,
cool.
and as you pointed out, the droid continued to
Kick
to
ass.
to both kick ass, but also to be
Only funny
the
character.
comedic relief, like, and relief to humans, sort
Yeah.
of, which is great. Um, but I I think the thing that I really want to point out, and I think I find it so interesting, is Senator,
Mon Mothma?
no, who's Leia's stepdad,
Right.
basically, or
Yeah.
whatever, dad. Uh,
Organa.
yeah, Senator
Yeah, Senator
Organa.
Organa.
So, like a few minutes before he says it, I all of a sudden realized, wow, there has been essentially zero
May the force be with yous.
any force, any
Yeah.
Jedi, anything. Like, I don't know whether they mentioned Jedi. I
No, I think there's like that one woman at the end of the episode that looked at Andor, maybe force sensitive.
no, but
Io.
that's what I'm hold on, that's what I'm getting at. That is first off, explicit force and Jedi were zero
No.
mentioned in both seasons,
Yeah.
essentially, except for Senator Organa tonight said to Andor, like, as he's leave whatever, like, may the force be with you.
Yeah.
But there's like
There's nothing else.
There's no mention, like, does Andor even know that? Like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
anyways, so I just want to point, because I was just thinking that before, and then he says it. Um, but to your point, the that woman
Yeah.
and Andor sees him. There's some sense of,
He's a messenger.
and even, yeah, and even his girlfriend or wife or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's something about him
Yeah.
or whatever. But it's so interesting that it's not explicit,
Right.
right? Like, as opposed to, like, when we get to Star Wars, there's
There would have they would have flat out said, yeah, she's a force user or something.
well, but what I mean is that Star Wars was all about explaining the Force, right?
Right, like why
And
are these people able to float objects like a space wizard?
well, even before you saw it, they're talking about, like,
Right.
creating this thing. And I understand that there's the, anyways, things fit into the lore about
Right.
destruction and the Jedis and the, it. But anyways, I'm just getting at that again, to my experience as watching, like, the original stuff about Star Wars. The Force was you know what I mean, was such
Huge, yeah.
was such a big part of it, and it's just interesting that it hasn't been. But
Right.
maybe that relates to,
I think that that's a good thing though, because there's no mention of Darth Vader, none at all. There's
it's
which is kind
exactly,
of crazy
yeah,
because
yeah,
like you always think he's behind the Emperor, and there's only barely a mention of the Emperor,
right,
which got Mon Mothma's speech cut down because, like, hey, you're bad mouthing the Emperor. But yeah, no mention of Darth Vader, no mention of any
right.
Force stuff, which I think works for the show. It doesn't need Force abilities. It's human characters with barely any plot armor.
And they're not. And the point, I guess, is that the Force is basically
In all of us.
no, but also that the Jedi's and all that. It's that they're not essential to the
Right,
rebellion.
yeah.
They've been wiped out and all
Right,
that
yeah,
stuff,
they're all
right?
hiding. Like, the
Or
rebellion
whatever.
wasn't built on a few Jedi who were like, we gotta fight them and get revenge. It was built on people, like
Right.
the message in the episode saying, like, there are a billion fronts of the war and no one even knows they're part of it because
Yeah.
any small act of rebellion, any anger thrown, even an angry thought is an act of rebellion against the Empire. And the Empire needs to constantly crack down on it because it's always leaking. It's always failing. And, hurting people puts itself back together.
Yeah, there was definitely, there were different moments where they looked forward and
Talked. And then back to that scene at the end scene of the long no talking scene. There are so many interesting characters. Like Mon Mothma, she doesn't have a special senator cubbyhole that she eats at. No, she's eating with all the other rebels, talking with them, eating the same food, helping them in her own ways. She's not special. She is special, but she's not a center in Republic or the Empire special. She's special because she's important, but she's also human and helping the.
Yeah, but I mean, she's with the rebels,
Right.
right? Like that, like
It's still cool to see her eating with them.
right.
And there's the scenes where the impure woman is like breaking down because, like, there's no way for her to get out because she's gonna
Like
die in there. They would never allow.
Well, I think the big thing is that she failed, right? She and the other guy
Failed.
who killed himself.
Oh yeah, like
Which was also, that whole thing was very, like, Nazi, like,
right.
if you didn't,
You fucked up so badly that there is no way you could even talk yourself out of it.
right.
That was the nice option of killing himself.
But also that is a
German?
that from the Second World War, whether it was true or not, in movies and things like that, it was like a trope or whatever. It's a thing that if somebody failed, they took their own life.
Right.
And even the phaser or whatever you call it, the
Yeah.
blaster that was used
Looked.
looked like a German Luger kind of
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I'm just saying that it was kind of in that genre.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I think it's super interesting that there was, and it was just kind of literally like becoming clear to me. And then Senator Organa says, "May the force be with you." It's just interesting that this, anyways, it's rolling into Star Wars, and yet that wasn't such a huge part of it.
Right.
But it definitely feels like it was only half an episode.
Right. Yeah.
Like we need a whole other, like they're gearing up for something, and it's
Right.
like, of course, I know what they're gearing up for.
But
I kind of would
yeah.
like
I kind of want to see more. Like
I
the
love
moment.
I love the way that they're telling this story as well.
Yeah.
That it's a new part of the story.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But it's also interesting to see all the stuff that they talk about. Like in the
Right.
episode, like when Andor talks about all the things that he knows, he talks about like the kyber crystals, the energy, and that one suspicious Imperial scientist. I forget his name, but like they mention
Right.
who is extremely important because he makes the Death Star weakness in the.
Oh, that's who they mentioned.
Yeah, they
Okay.
mentioned the
I
guy.
didn't know who that was. It was interesting when they talked, like when Andor came in and talked to the senators about. He didn't mention Death Star. He didn't mention, you know what I mean. He mentioned certain things, but still, they're still trying to like they know there's something important, but they still didn't,
Yeah, it's and like.
But also, sorry, we get our first glimpse of the Death Star, right?
Second, in season 2 glimpse.
Yeah, season 2 glimpse of like looking out the window,
right?
And there it is.
Yeah,
right?
like
pretty cool.
It's crazy. So in the first season, we saw the Death Star like straight out of like a rock concert album picture with like the eye pieces coming together,
right,
and like it looks like it's nearly complete. Like a few months away. Gosh, again, back to that super long stretch with Saw looking out the window to see the Imperial Star Destroyer like right out, or Dreadnought, whatever, like right outside his window because like they finally got his scent, and he doesn't care. He's like, finally, come and get me. Or the scene where Andor's partner, is walking through the barley fields
like
with
right
his
at the very end.
yeah,
right?
with the two droids. They made friends, and like she's got a child.
Right. Yeah.
Which is it's nice to see that like.
Yeah.
Even
the few nice little ends that
yeah.
they looped up.
Yeah. It's...
yeah.
God, that episode.
So in a way, well, you know what? I think the only thing to say is before I really comment on the end of Andor, I think I really need to rewatch Rogue One.
Yeah,
right?
we need to.
And
we need to
before I say like I feel like I want so much more, right? But it's not like it's just ended now, either the season
right.
or everything, right? It's not like somebody said, okay, here's the end, you guess what happened.
It leads
into something, right?
Which that's kind of what the prequels and the Clone Wars did. It led into things,
right?
Especially the Clone Wars. It knitted events together, gave them like understanding between it, and went all the way up to the end, to Order 66, to the final movie, and all these shows are kind of like the time in between,
right?
Like that you follow along to know what happens, and it just
and kind of put it together. It's funny because like when I think back to the first 3 movies or whatever, like obviously the first movie, the Death Star is huge, right? It's there and it's all this stuff, but like it happens so fast. It's like you don't like it is a crazy thing and all that, but I don't know. This somehow puts, it's just so interesting. This is like the building of the Death Star. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it takes a universe to build a Death Star and
Yeah,
blah blah blah.
it takes the death of planets. Gourmand is
Gorman,
hinted
yeah,
to be
yeah,
destroyed because like
yeah,
they're doing salutes to all the people who died, and they're like to the Gormans. So their planet probably blew up.
yeah.
The
We,
the
well,
planet destroyer killed a planet
well,
indirectly.
yeah, for the energy or whatever. But anyways, well, it's like it was good, but it's so interesting is that it's like it's really to be continued, right? Like
Yeah, to
that like episode 12 didn't, just it's like I'm not disappointed,
because
but it's like isn't that interesting, that they
they
anyways. Here's
yeah
to Rogue
to
One.
here's
Let's
to
go
yeah
watch,
we
let's
they
go
left the
yeah.
door open for us to walk through into Rogue One,
Yeah, they didn't
and
leave the door open. They like left the
this is the next episode.
yeah,
Episode
yeah,
13 that they never made is Rogue One,
yeah,
which is
exactly.
kind of funny because it's a so
Well,
tonal shift of like
we've got to watch it before we
yeah.
comment anymore. So, until we meet again.
Until we meet again.